I would like to invite Priyamvadha Vijayakumar, Ms. Priyamvadha Vijayakumar, senior journalist and consultant editor, India Today, to address the event.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pugal. It's indeed a pleasure to be part of this panel. So I've been a journalist for more than 15 years now. I'm closely following politics in Tamil Nadu especially, and also southern states, and to some extent, national and international politics as well. So I've been covering politics. Primarily, I'm a political journalist, I would like to call myself, and of course also an investigative journalist. So whatever I'm going to share is going to be more of what I've observed in political parties and what I've observed the trend of women in politics. That's what it's going to be about. But first of all, let me tell you, most of us, Mr. Pugal or myself or others, we are speaking from land of Tamil Nadu, and I'm very proud to talk about it. And I'll tell you why. I'm talking especially from I right now live close to Chennai, which used to be called Madras, and there is history to it and history to how women, to some extent, I wouldn't say completely, to some extent, have been in a position to come to the public sphere. In 1938, more than 1,000 women draped in saris, which had Tamil flag, had come out in the streets, and they protested against Hindi. And it was quite historic. Imagine in 1938, they all came out, they came with their kids, they came with their infants, and around 73 of them, they protested, there was picketing. It's a massive protest. And of that, 73 women were arrested and put behind bar. And I think that is where it was the beginning of women in public sphere to some extent to Tamil Nadu and also across the country. And they inspired a lot of women to come out in public sphere, to dare and come out and show what that place is. Similarly, in 1921, so I'm saying this history to show how the Dravidian movement has encouraged women to large extent compared to many other movements, political movements across Tamil Nadu. Dravidian movement has been much more supportive to women compared to any other political movement in India. So in 1921, it's the Madras constituency in the British Raj, which had passed the bill, which gave empowerment to women. It even recognized people. It's a suffrage. They gave the suffrage. So it is the first time that it was recognized that women are people or citizens of this country. They were given their voting rights. They were given the participation to be part of this country. And when we speak about it, when we speak about the history, apparently this was followed by Mumbai residency and few other states eventually. But in Madras, it just happened in 1.5 hours. People just came, the representatives came and they said, yes, women should be given the rights. So that progressive the state was, and immediately the bill was passed. But in Mumbai, apparently it took 3 days. There were discussions, there were talks, and finally, after 3 days, it was decided to pass the similar bill. So I'm saying this a little bit of background of how the self-respect movement had played an important role. The Dravidian movement had played an important role in shaping the mentality of politicians here in Tamil Nadu. So also Periyar played a major role. We all know that he had two important women in during Periyar's time. One is Annai Meenampal, another person is Veerammal. Both of them, belonging to an SC community, played a very major role in bringing a lot of women to the streets, to be participative in politics. In fact, it was Annai Meenampal who gave the name Periyar to E.V. Ramaswamy. So it is like important to note the kind of progression that was made. And Periyar was someone who spoke about equality, about the divorce rights, about abortion rights, about caste rights, and everything. So even his wife Nagamai was instrumental in bringing a lot of women to fight for their rights and fight against so many other evils, which eventually went on to shape the political future of many women in Tamil Nadu. But having said that, I know this was a rewind, and having said that, I come back to the present. So most of our political parties have stemmed from the Dravidian movement. And as someone already, I think Tara pointed out, unfortunately, we have hardly 5% of women representation, lowest in the history in Tamil Nadu Assembly today. And it also shows like how in Tamil Nadu, or not just Tamil Nadu, across the country, the number of women politicians coming out and occupying important power position is very, very low in our state. So in our country, I would say. We might also start saying, hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. We all might flaunt saying that we have had powerful, or we are having very powerful women leaders in our country, in our state. But unfortunately, even the women leaders who are elected to power and who are made as the chief minister or the prime minister, they have chosen to keep only men as the core members of that team. The core members of any political party has remained like a boys' club, more or less, I would say, where women have been confined to being head of Mahila Raj, or they have been confined to being given a position of taking care of women welfare, women welfare movement, and so on. So there has not been an equal opportunity.
What's it?
Yes, ma'am. There has not been an equal opportunity.
Coming up over here.
There is not been an equal opportunity.
This?
I didn't send that. Just send by to the group.
Please mute.
You're not on mute, MLA Sowmya Reddy.
So yeah, I'll continue. So they have not been given, they have not been part of any core group. And also imagine the portfolios that most of the women get. Of course, now we have a finance minister, and we might all jump and say we have a women finance minister and so on. But more or less in most of the states, or even in the country, if you look at the history, even the UN data shows that most of the women are only given the portfolios like women and child welfare, or they've been given, labor. Or I'm not saying these portfolios are less or more, but there are certain portfolios which should be held by women. That shows, that is breaking the glass ceiling. It's very much like in journalism, where most of the women, we are journalists, we climb up, we become deputy editors or so on. Very few women head the organization. Very few women go into the decision-making capacity. So not, and even in IT companies, we all are very happy and settled to point out one or two great women leaders or great women business entrepreneurs and say, oh look, women have achieved so much. But in reality, if you look at the ratio, if you take statistics and see, women have never been able to break that glass ceiling, I would say, because still, even today, the decision-making authority, whether in private organizations or in public sectors or in political parties, largely lies with men. And especially in political parties, I'm sure Ms. Sowmya Reddy would be able to acknowledge that it looks more like a boys' club, where are women who sit in an alliance talk, where are women who sit and decide on the candidates, where are women who sit and decide on important things, leave alone becoming occupying power of position of power to become the administrators. But where is the representation for them even at the discussion level is the biggest question that we have right now. Similarly, UN Women Organization has very clearly said that it might take 130 years, I'm not kidding, but 130 years for women politicians to emerge completely, because as of now, only 22 countries have heads of states as women, and 119 countries have never had a woman as their head. And also, most importantly, most of the places, there are only 10 states which have women as the head of the states, and 13 countries have women as the head of the country. So that's far, far less compared to what it should be. And as I already said, the portfolios allotted to them has also been very less. So the next big question comes, what is happening? Where is the gap? Why is this happening? As I said, the women leaders who managed to occupy the power, who managed to occupy the party, have also never been able to bring in a lot of women, or I don't know whether they never chose to, whether it was purposeful or whether it was the need of the hour. They never chose to bring in many women leaders or promote women leaders in core decision-making powers. This apart, the Amnesty International has shown, moving on, why women don't come, why women are not given this opportunity. As I said, not just the political parties remain boys' club, it's also about the sexist slurs that women have to encounter, whether they enter parliament, or whether they enter assembly, or whether they go into any public sphere. here I have some of the, ridiculous comments, I would say, by politicians, male politicians, cutting across the party lines. There is no one particular party that I'm going to be speaking about, how they have addressed women political leaders or politicians who have dared to come out. Some of them have called them prostitutes. Catcalling has become very common. And then there have been talks like men are men, mistakes happen, and women should adjust. And there have been talks like, despite being a woman, she's done this. And only rich and attractive women get to go ahead in life. And rupees 500 crore girlfriend. And in Hindi, Sathu Mal, a political leader from the same party leader had called his colleague with that Uttar Pradeshi slang, which is quite demeaning. And there have been chief ministers of Goa and former chief minister of Goa. When the women were protesting, he had called them for a meeting, for negotiation, and had said, don't sit in the sun, you'll end up becoming dark. And there has been an MP who was threatened, saying that I'll ask my boys to come and rape you. So while physically women politicians have to encounter such abuse in parliament, and in assemblies, the place where, the constitution is supreme. Now, the recent trend has been the social media, the sexist slurs and harassment that a politician, a woman politician especially, undergoes is extreme and quite unfortunate. Amnesty International in 2020 had done a study in which they found out that 13.8% of tweets against women, against women politicians between 2019 general elections and later, at 13.8% of tweets were very, very abusive. And especially the marginalized women politicians have faced even worse situation. If you're a Muslim, or if you're a Christian, if you belong to a minority community, or if you're an SC politician, you're even more abused and harassed online. That is almost 94.1% of Muslim women especially had faced harassment online with very dirty remarks that had come their way on Twitter. So when we talk about politics, when we talk about women, we again come to the point where what happens, what is the role that the caste plays? We have seen on many occasions that women from marginalized community are as such not given much prominence. Thankfully, the present government, the DMK government, has representation of a woman from the SC community. So, but we need more such representations. We need women contesting more. And the number of women being given seats has also decreased. Many political parties, citing winnability as a reason, have reduced giving seats to women. And we have also heard stories, when I have covered stories about women in politics, I've heard stories about how if a particular woman, even if she's chosen by the high command to go and contest in a particular constituency, her the male members, the male colleagues in that constituency do not come forward to cooperate for the woman for various reasons. And we all know what are those reasons. What are those reasons? That every woman actually faces the big male ego, which doesn't accept a woman boss very easily, or who don't like to take commands from their from the women much. So that has been the reason. So many of the women could not progress. And of course, the politics, it's very easy to brand a woman politician. So that's how the politics evolves. Like, I'm sure most of us know how it functions. You enter, you're ambitious in politics, you want to reach a position, immediately you're branded. A woman leader is very easily branded, saying you are, character assassination happens, abuses happen, marital life is brought into forefront. And also, is our assembly or is our parliament women friendly? Do we have young women who can bring their children to parliament, like how we saw New Zealand Prime Minister, that historic moment when she brought her 3-month-old baby to the UN General Assembly? Do we have that kind of an environment is the question that we have, because we haven't created that kind of an environment. There is a fear still, most of the women leaders have come from a traditional political families where they have they've had support system to come and be in the forefront. If today you go to a women's college, or you go to a 22-year-old girl and ask, would you like to enter politics? Politics is not majorly a choice for many women, unfortunately. We saw what happened in Kerala recently. The mayor, Thiruvananthapuram mayor, a 21-year-old girl, 21-year-old honorable mayor, I would say, sorry to call her girl, honorable mayor, Arya Rajendran, faced so many comments for being a youngest woman mayor. There have been posts against her calling her an LKG student. But what a powerful reply she was able to give. That is the kind of opportunity that we should be giving to women. She gave a very powerful reply saying that she's not an LKG student. She knows how to handle the councillors. She knows how to handle the municipality. And that's the kind of encouragement that women deserve. And in that way, Kerala is a model state, I would say, which has encouraged women in panchayat level, not just in panchayat level, in many levels, giving them very important portfolios to handle. And that has been quite a trend center, which the other states should also follow, I feel. And the next point that I would like to make here is what happened when I covered women in Panchayati Raj. So we all came up, the country India was very proud to say in 1993 we passed a bill saying the 33% reservation for women in Panchayati Raj, and it was implemented by 1996, and 10 years later, exactly 9 to 10 years later, I went to do a story. So imagine 10 years later, I went to do a story in different parts of rural Tamil Nadu to see how the women panchayat leaders are functioning. You won't believe. I would have traveled at least to 4 to 5 districts. I would have tried to meet at least 10 to 15 of these panchayat leaders. It was not the women leaders I met their husbands. See, most of the places, it's been the husband who was fighting for the seat or anything. And when the reservation came, they pushed their wives, or in very few cases, pushed their daughters or sisters, mostly wives. So when I came for the interview, the audacity of the husband was, yeah, you can talk to me. I said, no, I want to talk to the leader. No, she doesn't know much. She doesn't talk much. I said, but she is the panchayat leader. And he said, no, I handle everything for her. So she doesn't talk much. So that was like very heartbreaking for me. But thankfully, from that time to where we are now in 2021, we have progressed quite a bit, I would say, where women have, come out of the shadow of their husbands and are able to handle their own affairs in the Panchayati Raj reservation. So the reservation is indeed important, I would say. But more than reservation, even if the reservation happens, it cannot be for the namesake. More than reservation, I would prefer the political strength that the parties give, the power that the parties give to their political leaders, women leaders, or their women members would be more important and more significant, I would say, than the 33% reservation, which we wouldn't want again a male member to be controlling. I would like to end my speech now with what Periyar had once said. He had admitted, in fact, though he had spoken a lot about women empowerment, and he'd been the forerunner for the women empowerment, and we all women here in Tamil Nadu should be thanking him. But in a very, Periyar being Periyar had admitted, quote, I'm ashamed to state that I had not practiced 100% of what I wrote and preached about women's emancipation at home with Nagammai, unquote. And that's where we stand now. So there is a lot of preaching, there's a lot of discussion about it, but are we practicing it? But it's more to do with the reflection of the society that we live in. So as I said, it's not just about politics, it's about journalism, it's about an IT company, it's about any other company where women are not able to progress, or women are looked down upon, women are not given an equal opportunity, which stems from the attitude of what men have. And that's why I have few things that we can do. One, I would hope that the political parties and Mr. Pugal would take this to the right people, increase not just the members, women, most of the political parties have large number of women, and if you look at every political party, more women turn out, that hot sun, they come with their kids and they encourage, and they are the ones who are truly attached to the leaders more than men. You know, I've seen political parties where many men have come drunk, but women have come with full enthusiasm and they show so much love and dedication and loyalty towards their leader. So it's high time we tap that energy, convert it, and may bring out consistent women leaders. And parties can be trendsetters, you know, giving them very powerful portfolios, not namesake portfolios, powerful portfolios where a woman goes out and does all the work and she is brought into the limelight. And it's important to bring in a student movement, I would say, at this moment. Political student movement is very, very important for the country's growth and development. So political parties can tap in there, where we can reach out to a lot of women's colleges and conduct seminars like these to find out the hesitation in women or girls as young as Arya Rajendran, 21, 22. Why can't they enter, enroll themselves and be very active? It need not be only the women who are pushed from the family that have to come. Women from every walk of life, the parents, the stigma attached to politics has to be removed. And that can be done only by the male members, I would say. And that's why I'm happy to see Mr. Pugal Gandhi and a few other male members here. And I would request you all to have, male politicians participate in the debate next time, so that we can directly talk and interact and discuss with them and ask them what can be done. And that this is the only kind of participation that's going to bring a change in our country and society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Priyamvadha, for a wonderful speech. You nailed it. The political leaders' inner circle, or the political leaders, the power circle, is always a boys' club. But this is the case, and this was the case even when a woman became a chief minister or a prime minister. Or
absolutely,
even
that's what I said. Absolutely, yeah. That's what I mentioned. Like how, unfortunately, even when the woman was the chief minister here in Tamil Nadu, or when women was the prime minister or the present women chief ministers, they do not have their core team or the deciding team to be with women. It's just the one woman army. They do not want to include men in their in the core decision making policies or in the teams. So that's quite unfortunate. That's exactly what I mentioned. So it's boys club, not just when a man is leading, it's also a boys club when a woman is leading.
Thank you so much for your wonderful speech.